Ever found yourself needing a bit more cash than usual, only to be stumped by your bank's withdrawal limits? It's a frustrating situation, right? Especially when you're in a pinch. Today, we're diving deep into a question I get asked a lot: what is the Monzo maximum withdrawal? We're going to break down everything you need to know about Monzo's withdrawal limits, both in the UK and abroad, so you're never caught off guard again. First things first, let's understand why banks have these limits in the first place. It's not just about them being difficult, although it might feel like that sometimes. These limits are primarily in place for security reasons. They help protect you from fraud and theft. Imagine if someone stole your card and could drain your entire account in one go. Limits help to mitigate that risk. They also help banks manage their own cash flow and ensure they have enough funds available for all their customers. Now, let's get down to the specifics of Monzo's maximum withdrawal limits. There are a few different scenarios we need to consider. We'll start with cash withdrawals from ATMs. In the UK, the standard Monzo card has a daily ATM withdrawal limit of £400. This means you can take out up to £400 in cash every 24 hours. However, there's also a weekly rolling limit of £2,000. So, even if you don't hit the £400 daily limit every day, your withdrawals over a 7-day period shouldn't exceed £2,000. It's important to remember that these are Monzo's limits. Individual ATMs might have their own withdrawal limits, which could be lower than Monzo's. So, if you try to withdraw £400 and the ATM only allows £250, you'll be limited by the ATM, not Monzo. Always check the ATM screen for any posted limits before you try to withdraw cash. Now, what about withdrawing cash abroad? This is where things can get a little more complex. Monzo allows you to use your card at ATMs worldwide, but the daily and weekly limits still apply. You're still limited to £400 per day and £2,000 per week. However, there's an additional monthly rolling limit of £5,500 when you are using your Monzo card abroad. This means that over a 30-day period, your total cash withdrawals outside the UK shouldn't exceed £5,500. Keep in mind that when you withdraw cash abroad, you might incur fees. Monzo doesn't charge for cash withdrawals within the UK, but using your card at an ATM in another country could be subject to a small fee. This fee is usually charged by the ATM provider, not Monzo. It's always a good idea to check the ATM's terms and conditions before you proceed with the withdrawal. They should clearly display any fees that will be applied. Another important factor to consider when withdrawing cash abroad is the exchange rate. Monzo uses the MasterCard exchange rate, which is generally quite competitive. However, the exchange rate can fluctuate, so the exact amount you receive in local currency might vary slightly. You can usually check the current exchange rate within the Monzo app. So, we've covered ATM withdrawals, but what about other ways to access your money? Well, you can also use your Monzo card for purchases in shops and restaurants, both online and in person. For card payments, there are generally no daily or weekly limits. However, there might be some limits on very large transactions. If you're planning on making a particularly large purchase, it's always a good idea to contact Monzo customer support to check if there are any specific limits in place. Another way to access your money is through bank transfers. You can easily transfer money to other Monzo users or to accounts at other banks. For bank transfers, there are also generally no daily or weekly limits, but again, very large transfers might be subject to review. If you're making a significant transfer, it's worth contacting Monzo support just to be sure. Now, let's talk about increasing your withdrawal limits. While the standard limits are usually sufficient for most people, there might be situations where you need to withdraw larger sums of cash. Unfortunately, Monzo doesn't currently offer a way to permanently increase your ATM withdrawal limits. The limits are set for all users and cannot be customized. However, there might be some exceptions in very specific circumstances. If you have a genuine need to withdraw a large sum of cash, such as for a wedding or a large purchase, you can contact Monzo customer support. They might be able to offer some assistance or alternative solutions, although there's no guarantee that they'll be able to increase your limit. So, to recap the Monzo maximum withdrawal limits, for ATM withdrawals in the UK, it's £400 per day and £2,000 per week. For ATM withdrawals abroad, it's also £400 per day and £2,000 per week, with a monthly rolling limit of £5,500. Remember that individual ATMs might have their own lower limits, and you might incur fees when withdrawing cash abroad. For card payments and bank transfers, there are generally no daily or weekly limits, but very large transactions might be subject to review. Understanding these limits is crucial for managing your finances effectively and avoiding any unexpected surprises. It's always a good idea to plan ahead and consider your cash needs before you travel or make any large purchases. If you have any doubts or questions, don't hesitate to contact Monzo customer support. They're always happy to help. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.